Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Ken, and today we're here to review Barbarian, the latest horror thriller that was in theaters but just dropped on HBO Max. So if you have HBO Max, you can watch it for free. It's also available on VOD. So yeah, we're going to get into our thoughts on this movie. This very wild movie. There's a lot of stuff that happens in this movie. But before we get into it, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We cover movies and TV shows on this channel, entertainment news, all that kind of stuff. If you like that, yeah, do what she says. Like the video, and then comment down below if you've watched Barbarian. I imagine you have some thoughts. Let us know what they are in the comment section below. Or if you're going to watch it based on our recommendation here today, whether or not we recommend it or not. So I think how we're going to do this review is because it is out on VOD and it's available to watch at home. So I think more people are seeing it now. We're going to do first half non-spoilers, just our general thoughts, and then the second half we'll dive into some spoilers because there's some it's almost impossible to like talk about this movie without getting into the full-on spoilers because there's just big things that happen here, so that we want to talk about. But overall, just as a movie, how did you enjoy this?
Yeah, so I ended up really liking this movie.
It was pretty hyped. Like a lot of people said great things about it. So
yeah, you know, I have heard some people not liking it. So, you know, you always get a little nervous because I don't know if we mentioned, but we were pretty excited to watch it.
Yeah.
You know, we had planned to see it in theaters, but just never made it. So, yeah, once the movie was done, I was pleasantly surprised and I had a good time with it.
Yeah. I mean, that happens a lot in particular, like with horror this year. I know with X was super hyped and then we watched it and we were like, that was okay.
Right.
But I didn't get what the hype was about. It almost seems like the theater rush, like the people that see it in theaters, they're all like super high on something. And then when it comes to people at home, they're like, well, that was, you know, okay, but it wasn't as good as, you know, people were making it out to be. And it's almost like there's like two audiences now. Like the whole pandemic like made things shift. I don't know, I've just been thinking about this. Where you have people that know it's going to come on VOD in a month, so they wait for it. Then you have the theater people that go see it in the theaters, which we see stuff in theaters too.
Right.
And then it's like by the time it gets to the people at home, the theater people done hyped it up so high that it just can't possibly meet their expectations.
Yeah, that's true.
But the same thing happened with the Black Phone, I feel like, as well. Because we watched that at home and it was like, it was good, but you know, wasn't nowhere near as...
Yeah, that movie was very underwhelming to me.
Yeah, but I have to say, I'm not saying this is a masterpiece, but I think that this overall, for me, did live up to the hype. I did enjoy this movie quite a bit. I was down for all the twists and turns, even though I knew that, you know, some stuff was going to happen. I've been hearing some things. There was still stuff that took me by surprise.
Right.
I enjoyed the plot. I enjoyed the way it developed. It doesn't go where you expect it to go at all.
Yeah.
I like seeing Justin Long back in a movie. I don't know like what else he's been doing in this time, but
yeah, I'm not sure either. I feel like he has some things coming up.
Yeah, maybe he was in some TV show that we didn't watch. I don't know. Like maybe he's still been working, but I just don't feel like he's been in the spotlight as much.
So yeah, something that I really want to mention is just the like the direction of this movie, or the
very well directed.
I mean, that's what you call it, right? Like I feel
direction,
like a dummy,
cinematography. I mean, the director of this movie is Zach Kreger, and we were looking at his filmography. It looks like he's done a bunch of like low budget stuff.
He wrote and directed it.
He wrote and directed it, so he's responsible for the script. So I'm definitely like, I'll be all in on anything that he does going forward.
I know, yeah, like you just said, he hasn't really done any like known stuff, and so it's really interesting to me to watch this movie and be really impressed. And so I'm kind of like, okay, wow, like this might be his movie, like where he kind of gets his big start or something.
Like even if you're not on board for the story, which I can understand people not being on board with some of the twists and turns in this movie, but you have to appreciate just the filmmaking because there's some very impressive like shots and cinematography, and there's a lot of like over the shoulder like tracking shots, which I always appreciate. Yeah, there's moments where like, you know, I was saying it kind of reminded me of a video game a little bit, just the way they were showing from like the POV perspective. But a lot of cool shots in this movie, a lot of cool sequences.
In the beginning, one that just sticks out in my mind, probably because it happened in the beginning, but when the girl, which her name is Tess in the movie, she's played by Georgina Campbell. You know, she arrives to this Airbnb house and there's a part where, the guy, his name's Keith, who's played by Bill Skarsgård.
Bill Skarsgård, yep. Who also does a terrific job in this movie. I thought he was great. Just for what he was, again, we'll get into it in spoilers, but just for what he was required to do, I thought he played everything so perfectly.
Right. But there's like a shot where she basically comes into the house. And so that was a really cool kind of like, would you call it like a pan over shot? Or it was just like her stepping into the house. And so it just
they just kind of pan out and they show her stepping into the house. But as soon as she steps in, that's when they flash the title up, right?
Yeah. And like it was, I was telling you how I thought would you call it soundtrack or music?
Sound design was incredible.
Oh, yeah. Like in the beginning, they're like, when it first opens up, like she's sitting in her car and it's raining, it's dark. And before you like get into the car with her, there's just this like creepy, like kind of moaning and like crying out. And so I don't know, it was a very good setup.
A lot of great atmosphere, like in particular, the first 40 minutes, because there's this tension building. And then, of course, you get to the moment where they kind of turn the tables on you and it's just like balls to the wall. But there's still that tension there. I feel like the whole movie. I don't feel like the movie really changes its tone all that much. I mean, it does like it does turn into something that you don't expect. But I feel like the tone and the overall like atmosphere and tension, it's all still there. It's just there in a different way. I don't know if that makes any sense.
I feel like I would agree with that, but then I feel like there's definitely a part in the movie where it does completely change.
It does.
But then it kind of goes back to it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it like completely picks back up to where it was.
Yeah.
Like Justin Long, like he definitely adds a different
yeah, he does. I love it. Just when he showed up, it was like just the energy of the movie changed.
Right.
And I was just excited to see him in the movie. I don't know. I like him.
And I mean, let's just backtrack a little bit. I just wanted to read like the quick plot. It's a woman staying at an Airbnb, discovers that the house she has rented is not what it seems. And so,
very basic plot. Real quick, before we talk about spoilers, let's go ahead and give our scores. For the movie, and then we'll jump into spoilers. So what would you give this movie out of 5?
Right after we finished it, I kind of looked over at you and I was like, I really like this. I would give it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I would give it the same. Again, I don't think it's... there's some problems, which we'll address here in a second. I feel like the movie does require you to suspend a little disbelief. There's some decisions that are made in this movie that are like kind of nonsensical, but overall, I think just as a movie... I just really enjoyed it. So I would probably have to give it the same. A 4 out of 5. All right, so let's dive into spoilers right now. So if you haven't seen the movie, turn this off. Definitely drop us a like first and subscribe. Turn this off. Go watch the movie, then you can come back and check out our thoughts on the spoilers. So, so the movie starts off with you. So the woman arrives at the house. Bill Skarsgård's there. They both rented this Airbnb
B&B
at the same time. So it's like a situation where I'm supposed to be staying here. And he's like, no, I'm supposed to be staying here.
Right. So it was like an error. They rented from 2 separate websites. So, you're like, okay, I guess that it could possibly happen. And so.
So he's super nice.
And you kind of saw this from the preview.
You saw it from the preview.
Yeah.
He's super nice, but at the same time, you've seen a lot of movies and situations like this before.
Right.
Like you
automatically think that he's probably the bad guy.
Yeah, you automatically think he's a scumbag. He's going to do something to her. He's going to lock her somewhere. It's just like from the trailer.
Because he's got this, kind of unknown creepiness. And I mean, essentially they're both strangers.
And I mean, it's freaking Pennywise. Like you look in his eyes, you can see the clown.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, he invites her in, trying to help her out, and help set her up in another spot. And, but when that doesn't pan out, he's like, "Hey, well, you can sleep here. You can sleep in the bed. I'll sleep on the couch."
Right.
That sort of situation.
Nice. He's kind of awkward. He's like, you can tell he's he's kind of a little socially awkward, kind of nervous around her. And so that adds into you not being quite sure if he's like good or bad or not.
But he plays it so well. Like I love the way Bill Skarsgård plays this because he is super awkward, but he plays it in a way that's like also very creepy at the exact same time.
Right.
And it's like you could totally see him being a serial killer.
Right.
But also you're like, is he just a good guy? And it's like you can't you can't tell but he just does such a good job of balancing those two things. So
yeah, and I mean, I feel like it was definitely the point of it, to where you're not really quite sure, or I feel like you probably would lean more on the side that he's probably a part of this, a bad storyline or whatever, or not bad storyline, but like the villain or whatever you want to say.
And this goes on for like the first 40 minutes. Like she goes in there to sleep. He's like helping her like clean the sheets because she has a thing about the sheets and stuff. And it's like it goes on for so long, and you're just waiting for something horrible to happen. Their ability to be able to keep this tension for so long was really kind of incredible. So but then she gets locked in the basement, and then it goes to the next day. Like she wakes up, he comes home, she goes in the basement, gets locked in. He helps her out. She finds a room down there in the basement, and she goes down this basement. There's all kinds of corridors and everything else, and tunnels and all that kind of stuff. So he it helps her out of that, and then she's like, there's a room down there with a camera and there's blood on the walls, and he goes down to investigate, and they're all down there investigating. There's another corridor. They keep going deeper into this house, and you're like, what is going on? Like, what's going to happen? Is he going to lock her in? Like, at this point you still think that he might be the bad guy.
Yeah, like I was kind of thinking maybe he's working with someone else and this is kind of a setup. But you very quickly find out that that's not the case. And then we get the first look of this creepy... You
want to talk about the titty monster?
Ken kept calling it the titty monster.
The titty monster.
It reminded us a lot of the creatures from The Descent. If you've seen that. It
actually reminded me of The Witch.
Oh, okay.
From the movie The Witch.
Well, you also said The Descent, though.
Yeah, from just the situation kind of reminded me of The Descent.
Right,
like they're going down. I was like, okay, so how many of these things are down here?
It's like, in the dark, and like you would just get the quick, jump scares of the woman, going into the light. And so, she's naked. Like you can tell that she's probably been down there a very long time. Well, I mean, actually, at first you don't even know that she's a woman. You don't know if it's some kind of creature, something supernatural going on. And then that's when they kind of throw in, I guess we should talk about...
Well, she grabs Bill Skarsgård's head and beats it against the wall, so he's dead. Yeah. Like in 45 minutes in, Bill Skarsgård is dead. So right then you know that, okay, so he was just a good guy that was trying to help her out. Right. Nothing bad about him. But yeah, it is kind of interesting how it turns into what you think it's going to be like a kidnapping, like thriller type movie. Yeah. And then it turns into like a creature feature, almost like just a monster movie at that point.
So then after that, like you said, it completely shifts. And so you get this, like it just goes black. And then all of a sudden we're like on the coast of California or something, and then that's when we get introduced to Justin Long.
Yeah, and he's singing in his convertible.
It's this like upbeat music, and it's like just completely different. And for a second, I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, this is weird. Like,
well, you thought it was a flashback at first.
I did. Well, no. Well, yeah, I thought it was going to talk about, how we got to the point where we were or whatever.
But it turns out that he's some kind of like studio executive or actor or director or something.
Actor. Yeah.
Is he an actor?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the co-star.
There's some kind of sexual misconduct thing going on with him. So he apparently owns some properties, and one of the properties he owns is the house in Detroit.
The Airbnb. Yep.
So he's basically finds out he's going to be getting fired. He could be getting arrested for the sexual misconduct thing going on at work. So he has to go like liquidate some of his assets to get some money to pay for his legal defense. Yeah. And that brings him to the house because he's got to go there to sell it.
I thought this was interesting too because you kind of see that he's kind of a scumbag. I mean, he is a scumbag. And
it does create like an interesting contrast between him and Bill Skarsgård because when you're introduced to Bill Skarsgård, you think that he's a bad guy, and then he's very alarming when you first meet him. Right. But he turns out to be a good guy. Whereas Justin Long, when you meet him, he's very unalarming and just feels like a good person. And then later on in the movie, you find out he's a scumbag. Right. So.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that it felt like it was interesting because then you're like, okay, here's a new character in the movie. He's the owner of this house. Like, does he know about what's going on in this house? And so that adds this whole other layer of, okay, maybe he's in on it. And then you very quickly realize that he has no idea as well.
He's not. He gets locked in there as well, and he gets basically like he's trying to measure the house, and then he finds himself in the basement. And this kind of goes into the characters doing stupid things because it's like, something's wrong. There's cars parked out front. There's people's stuff inside.
Right.
And he's just measuring the house, and it's like he doesn't feel like he's in the room with the camera and the blood on the walls, and it's like he doesn't even notice it. And he just keeps going down. It's like nothing. The only thing he's worried about is the square footage and the fact that it keeps increasing as he finds new corridors and areas of the house.
I mean, he was the only one that acted like that, and so I think that was just like they were just trying to make him seem like this dumb,
just
big
very
actor.
flippant and oblivious to everything around him. And then he, gets attacked when he gets in the basement, and he gets thrown in this pit, and that's where you find the girl down there. And then they do this flashback where they're basically telling you the origin of the house.
Right.
So they throw in like another plot line, like another twist.
Right.
Trying to, basically tell you what's been going on in this house, how we got to this moment. Mm-hmm. But they don't tell you everything, and that's what I like about it. They don't go back and tell you everything. They show you just enough for you to get the basic idea of what's actually going on. So and then it just kind of goes off the rails from there and twists out of control and gets even more crazy. So I don't know if we want to go into everything, but is there anything else you want to say?
That's plenty. Yeah, I just want to say, as far as my issues with the movie, as far as the woman creature goes, so basically you find out that the man that used to live in the home, he ended up basically kidnapping all these women and having babies with them, and then he would have
it kind of reminded me of Don't Breathe a little bit, because I think he was doing a similar thing, or he was trying to impregnate one of his people he captured.
Yeah, but it in this one it's it gets incest or whatever, and so that's basically what this woman creature is. She's just a line of ancestry.
That's how they explain superhuman mutant strength is incest.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That was my problem. That I'm like, how is this person so strong? Because there is no supernatural stuff going on.
She's picking people up and dragging them and throwing them and pulling arms off at certain points, which is there's a lot of crazy stuff that happens in this movie.
Yeah, so that would be, one of my only issues with the movie. But overall, I still thought it was great. So
yeah, you got to kind of, at some point with these type of movies, just kind of let go of, I guess, reality. Because at that moment when it twists and you see the creature coming up, it's like, okay, this is just a different kind of movie. This is not grounded in any kind of traditional reality or anything. So you got to kind of take it for what it is. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I could see it probably growing on me in years, it being something I do go back to and rewatch. So really enjoyed it. So yeah, appreciate you guys watching this review, this both non-spoiler and spoiler review of Barbarian. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on those bell notifications. Follow us down below on our social media accounts, and leave us a comment down below if what your thoughts are on this movie. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.